Alrighty, so we're going to do it a little bit early. I think we're like a day or two early because the patch comes out on Tuesday for global, but I wanted to go over the characters and, answer the question of should you summon, because I think this one is a really interesting banner. Obviously we have, two different teams that are kind of getting, or like one brand new team basically, and then a support character, or I guess more of like a DPS character for an existing team, and it's kind of like a weird situation where we're super. It's a bad time because it's a brand new collab. There's 4 new characters. It's pretty tough to get a lot of characters in a short amount of diamonds, I guess. So unless you're just like flush with cash, or are sitting on a good stockpile of gems or anything, it's gonna be hard to convince people, or make people want to summon on this kind of banner whenever everybody has really high hopes right now for the New Year's banner, because last year we got Trader Melly, who ended up being a phenomenal unit that is still used today for all kinds of different stuff. So I think people are hoping that the New Year's banner is going to be something similar this year, where it's got a really, really good character on it. And I hope so too, because honestly, like, those kind of characters are few and far between, and having something that's really universal that you can kind of use on anything, and it's good for multiple game modes and stuff like that, is super helpful for everybody's account. So, should you summon for this is a really good question. Before we hop in, I do want to say, if you're new to the channel or anything like that, feel free to subscribe. We're almost at 11K, which is super cool. So if you're new or anything and you want to stick around, I do plan on covering all of the Shield Hero stuff as it comes out on Global, and we'll mess around with the characters and have a good time. So, first up, we have Philo. I think Philo is probably the one that everybody's going to be more after, because she is, for an existing team, if you don't know, she's basically going to pair very well with the unknown Infinity Merlin team. Infinity Merlin, when she came out, which she's still available right now on Global for the next couple of days, which I actually don't know if the banner ends as soon as the collab comes out, or if it's a couple of days after. I think it ends when the collab comes out. I guess we can check that really quickly. So her banner ends on November 1st, which is, yeah, on Tuesday. So whenever the collab comes out, she will be gone. So it's kind of a hard sell there, because if you don't already have Merlin, and she was not super impressive when she very first dropped, that would mean that you're going to have to summon all the way to get her. Depending on how lucky you get, you could pull her really early, or whatever the case may be. But she's kind of mid on her own, but Philo looks like she's really good with that team, so that makes her look really impressive. So it's kind of a situation where if you already summoned for Merlin, and you already have her, she's a really loud character, by the way. For some reason, they make it to where she has a ton of weird noises that play in the background if you leave her page up. But yeah, Philo looks really impressive, because basically, if you don't know, the more debuffs that they have on the enemy that you're attacking with Philo, she's going to deal like tons of damage, because she's ignoring 8% of the crit resistance and crit defense of the character, and she boosts single target damage by 60% as long as it's not her ultimate. So she does have a single target stun card. It stuns at level 2 and 3, and then she has a weak point AoE, which is also hitting really, really hard. So she's got some really impressive damage. I think out of all of the characters, she probably looks the most impressive, like, on her own. So she's really, really cool. But like I said, if you don't have Merlin, it's kind of a hard sell. Hopefully, during the next collab, or it might end up, or not collab, if after the next festival, or it could end up being 2 festivals from now, because they normally don't put the previous festival character in the coin shop. You might be able to pick up Merlin sometime in the near future-ish if she's not already on a banner. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird time for this to come out, I guess, because a lot of people did not really care too much for Merlin at the beginning. I know a lot of people did summon, because obviously most of the time the festival characters end up being very useful, so people try to at least save up to try to summon on festival banners, which is completely understandable. So definitely, like, slots right into the unknown banner, or the unknown team, I guess. The big one, I guess, is Nalfami and Raftalia. So the big thing here is that they are basically creating a brand new team that's going to be mono blue, and it focuses on defense. So the big thing here is that you're basically going to have to run Gil Thunder in the back, blue Gil Thunder, which might be a hard sell in of itself, because he is an SR unit. I don't have UR gear for him because I've never really invested into any of the Gil Thunders, so the only one that I've even tried to use is the green one, and he just increases defense-related stats in PvP. But the blue one is going to be the much better one here because if you're running, blue attribute character, speed attribute, he's boosting defense strictly by 60%, which is a huge increase because if you don't know, these two characters both run off of defense instead of attack. So their actual attacks are going to use the defense stat to calculate how much damage you're going to deal. So that is very odd, and it kind of creates a weird situation where you're going to have to create two unique gear sets, both triple defense sets for these characters, and the team that you sort of have to build around them is very defense related. So Gil Thunder in the back. I've seen people use Chandler as the third because he's blue, of course. I've yet to see people use Tarmiel. I assume he's probably going to be a pretty good unit to maybe slap in the team. They showcased it with Goddess Elizabeth, which is kind of weird. So you probably have a third slot unit, like a character to run alongside these characters in the front line, already built up, I would imagine. But Gil Thunder in the back is kind of weird. I don't have UR gear for him. I had to, level 100 SA6 him or whatever, which was not really something I wanted to invest in, but because he's an SR unit, it's a little bit cheaper, so it's not that big a deal. But you're basically having to build a brand new team here. So you're having to build up these brand new units all the way from, start to finish. You have to make UR gear for them. You got to power them all the way up to level 100 and everything. And, SSR pendants are not easy to come by. Sometimes, Super Awakening coins are, pretty low in demand sometimes. So I guess it just depends on how many materials you already have on your account, really. So this is a brand new team, which can be a really hard sell. So last up we have Kizuna, which is very interesting. She's free. You don't have to worry about summoning her at all. Plus, she's a PvE only unit. I think that she's going to be really, really helpful to help people out with OG Demon, because unfortunately she is restricted and you can't use her in demonic beast battles, which I think is by far the worst part about the unit, but it is what it is. She has a Pierce card. Every time you use the Pierce card, if you have her relic, her actual passive is the one that does that, but if you use her attack card, it's going to rank up all of her other cards in hand, which means that you can pretty easily get, high tier buff cards for her, and then use these, which are going to increase your basic stats by 30%. If you have her holy relic, it's going to give you a 30% attack related stats increase. So she's free. You don't have to worry about her at all. She doesn't really need a specific team or anything because she's PvE only. Don't have to really worry about it. You can just power her up in your free time if you need her, and then kind of slap her in whatever you want to use her in. So that's not a big issue, but having to build up a brand new team for these two, having to already have Merlin and build up a unknown team for Philo could probably be an issue. So overall, I would say with the New Year's banner coming up, you're going to have to invest a lot of materials in these characters. It really just depends on your account specifically. If you already have a ton of materials, maybe you kind of just sit on stuff and try to be prepared, I would say you could possibly go for these, because honestly, Now For Me seems very, very good. But obviously you do pretty much have to run Raftalia with him, and then you want to run, good support, so, having them on a blue team. So that can be a little weird, but he does seem very impressive from the stuff that I've seen of him so far. Raftalia seems like she can do a pretty good amount of damage, which is great, but she doesn't. I think out of all of the PvP units, she's probably the weakest link here, but by far not like a terrible unit or anything by any means. So Philo looks pretty impressive. It just depends on what you have. If you have the unknown team and everything, and you want to do a rotation just to guarantee yourself a copy of Philo, completely understandable. If you end up getting lucky and you pull both of these characters and you have the materials for them and everything, by all means, go for it and invest into them if you want to. But I think if you've already got a good, team setup going, maybe you run demons, maybe you run humans, these characters aren't going to help you out any. They're not really going to help you, on those respective teams. I assume that, none of these characters are locked down to PvP per se. I'm pretty sure the passives and everything work on all three of these characters in every game mode, but they have to be active, like they have to be in the front line. They're not sub-slot units or anything like that, but they do work in all game modes, so potentially they could be helpful for stuff in the future. But I would say if you're really gambling on like hoping that the New Year's unit is really good. Obviously, I think everybody really wants Mayel, of course. Maybe he'll be absolutely insane, and it'll be worth the wait, and then you can have more gems to try to get more extra copies of him. So, yeah. I don't know. That's pretty much it. It's not as cut and dry as just like, yes, you should summon, no, you should summon, because these are exclusive units. I think it's a really good point to make that the game is in its 3rd year, and the potential for this collab to come back is pretty low. I don't know when they're planning on doing a 3rd season of this show. I would imagine it would probably need to wait until a 3rd season comes out for them to try and do a rerun of this collaboration. So it might be a good while, if not never come back. So the exclusivity of the units is definitely something interesting. But, you know, obviously these characters aren't going to be getting any sort of like buffs or anything until a rerun comes out or something like that. So I don't know. Who knows? It's really too early to tell if they're going to stay in the meta for very long or anything like that, but they do look like really fun and interesting units to run, so it's kind of just a gamble. If you have the extra materials and the extra diamonds to spend on the banner, by all means, I would say go for it, because they do look good, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any opinions or thoughts on the banner in general, I know a lot of people have been talking or commenting and everything on my videos in the past couple of days talking about the Shield collab and saying whether or not they're, you know, not really all that interested. They haven't watched the anime, so they're not interested in it, or whatever the case may be. They don't run these teams. It's completely fair, completely valid. So let me know what your thoughts and opinions are. I will see you guys in the next one. Feel free to subscribe and all that good stuff down below, and I will see you later.